Hello, hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing? Good evening. Good evening. How y'all doing? We're going to have us a little heart talk tonight. How's everybody feeling? Good evening, good evening. Hey, Dawn, how you and the family doing, girl? Y'all doing good in the social distancing? Are you home? Are you out essential working? Whatever. I hope that everything is well with you guys. I just wanted to get on tonight and just do a quick little, let me try to get set. I just wanted to get on tonight and just do a quick little heart talk with you guys. Hey Omni, how you doing? Wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness because I truly believe that forgiveness is a big part of what God is healing in the earth right now. And I just wanted to talk about it tonight because we're home. Even if you have to work, anything that you would do outside of work for the most part is closed in most places. And that's the safe thing for us to do for a while. So I believe it's time for us to heal. The earth is physically healing. The ozone is healing. Lakes, streams, rivers, oceans are healing. And it's time for us to heal. So for those of you who may not know me, I am Adelaide Brown, your heart coach. And as a heart coach, I work with individuals to confront matters of the heart so that they may live authentically on purpose. And I just got on tonight because I just felt very heavy in my spirit to talk a little bit about forgiveness. And I feel like there are many of us who are dealing with issues and the byproducts of the lack of forgiveness. And I think that we can get very caught up on not wanting to be in the house and wanting to get back out. And so many people want to get back to their routine. And I also understand that there are a lot of people who aren't working who really need to work, or they really need to be provided for. And I understand. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. And what I would like to say is I truly believe that if you're home, God has provided and is providing a way for you. And maybe you don't know about that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about forgiveness tonight, because a lot of times when we don't forgive ourselves, we have trouble receiving help. When we have trouble forgiving other people, it's hard for us to receive help. And in a season like this, it's a time for us to work together, to encourage one another, to uplift one another. And I feel like if God brought you to it, He's going to bring you through it. And for many of us, we want to get out of the house because we're tired of being still. We're tired of not going anyplace. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know how to deal with ourselves. Hey, Trees, how you doing? We don't know how to deal with ourselves. Like, we don't know how to deal with those thoughts and those ideas that are running through our heads that cause us to make the bad decisions that we make. Many of us are in unhealthy patterns that we've watched our families participate in, our parents, our grandparents. And so a lot of things we look at it, much need to talk with our families. Absolutely. Thank you, Corey. Good seeing you. Blessings to you and the family. Many of us are in toxic cycles, right? That we have watched happen for generations in our homes, in our families, and in our communities. And I feel like this is a season that God is hitting reset. I feel like this is a season where God is saying, hey, I am going to fix that for you. I'm going to work that out for you, but you have to trust me and you have to come to me. And so I'm going to read a quick little passage in a little bit. But before I get into that, I want you to understand why it's so important for you to not point the finger at everyone else. When you see this topic and you see me talking about forgiveness, I don't want you to look at it and think, oh, it's what they did to me. Because a lot of times when we struggle with forgiveness, it starts within. There are things that we've done or things that we've experienced in our lives that we're ashamed of, that we wish we had done it differently. We wish we hadn't done that. We wish we hadn't gone that place. We wish we didn't hang out with this person. For some people, you feel like, I wish I didn't marry that person. I wish I didn't have a child by that person. I wish I didn't get that degree. It's so many things that we can regret or have shame for. Like, some of us made bad decisions younger years or are still making bad decisions, and we wrestle with dealing with those things. And I just feel like when you think about the topic of forgiveness, yes, it's about what has happened to you, but it's also about what you've done to yourself. It's also about what you've allowed to happen to you. A lot of us have to forgive ourselves for being in toxic and unhealthy relationships, for connecting with people that never meant us any good. And it's like, I believe that we're in this season because God is like, I'm tired of you moving forward acting like everything is all good when it's not. Actually, before I got on tonight, he pretty much said to me, the world is experiencing a pandemic, but our hearts have been experiencing a pandemic way before this natural one started. We have been hurt, we have been broken, we have been confused, and we haven't done much about it but to cover up. What do? We armor up. We try to fortify ourselves with titles behind our names, with material things, right? We try to build alliances with other people, build certain cliques and clubs, all of these things, because many of us are trying to convince ourselves that we're not the person that we think we are, or the person that we believe we are. Right? We're trying to project who we want people to believe we are, but deep down inside, we feel like a fraud, or we feel like we're not that particular person. And I know some people will say, well, that might be you and that's not me. That's fine, but I know many more of us struggle from that than we would admit, than we would acknowledge, right? And even if you're someone who's caught up in that, trying to present that you're someone that you're not, trying to do something that you know you're not supposed to be doing, even in that, you have to forgive yourself, because you're not being authentic with yourself, but you want somebody to keep it real with you. Think about that. Just think about that. If you keep finding yourself in situations where it's like you keep being double crossed, and you keep having people talking behind your back, or you keep finding yourself in messed up business deals and things like that, you have to start to look within. What are some areas you need to heal? What are some things that you need to focus on? What are some things that you need to let go of? One of the things I liked about the I'm back. Sorry about that. One of the things I liked about the definition of forgive, it says to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake, right? To stop feeling resentment or angry towards someone for offense, a flaw, or a mistake. That's not, like I said, that's not just projected outwards. Where have you made flaws or mistakes? Where have you been offended and also offended other people? We have to forgive ourselves when we take offense. When we get offended by what people say and what people do, that's usually a sign that there's an area in our life that needs to be healed, because we can't control anyone else but ourselves. And I would even go so far as to say, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, if there was never a time that we need to focus on forgiveness of self and others, now is the time, because we're starting to see the hearts of people, right? We're starting to see what's really important and what's not important in the lives of many. And when we do that, we have to understand that that does not mean that we have to, act a different way. It just means that we have to move wisely, pray for wisdom, pray for discernment, and all of that can come about, and it's more powerful and it's more potent when we are moving in forgiveness. So I want to read not a chapter, just a few verses of scripture to you. And it's coming from Mark chapter 11. And if you're not someone who reads your Bible, you might not even have a Bible, you can look it up on your phone. You can Google Mark chapter 11, starting at verse 20, ending at verse 26. Starting at verse 20, ending at verse 26. And I just want to point out to you how important it is for us to give. If you are someone who feels like your prayers are not being answered, if you're someone who feels like it's like you can't ever get anything right, I just want to challenge you that maybe there's an area of your life that you've been avoiding, the area of your life where you need to start forgiving and seeking God, where you may not have been doing that before, right? And do me a favor, please share this video with anyone that you think could benefit from it. All right, so Mark chapter 11, verse 20 says, as they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered away at its root. And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown to the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Now check this now. So we've heard that, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can speak to the mountain and the mountain can be moved. And he just said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. But this is the kicker, and this is what I wanted to read to you tonight and to show you how important forgiveness is. It says, and whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. And so I didn't plan to stay late tonight, but I just wanted to show you that the lack of forgiveness can cause your prayers not to be answered. The lack of forgiveness could be why you can't seem to reach your goals or reach your dreams or be the person you know God created you to be. The lack of you forgiving others who have wronged you, who have abused you, who have cheated on you, who have lied on your name. You're going to have to forgive them. It doesn't mean that you let them off the hook. It means that you let yourself off the hook. It means that you no longer try to be in control of a situation that you were never designed to be in control of. Some people are like sandpaper in our lives, right? They're rough to deal with, but they're refining us and they're making us better. So what I'm saying to you is you may have been talked about. You may have been like I said, abused. People may still be talking about you. People may be judging you because of things you did in the past. Once you have asked for forgiveness, if you are following Christ and you have asked for forgiveness, then you're forgiven. Like, you are forgiven. And so if you're forgiven, then you have to freely offer that forgiveness. So I feel like there are a lot of us that are holding on to anger. We're holding on to resentment. We're holding on to offense. We're holding on to frustration. We're holding on to abandonment. We're holding on to racism and prejudice and things that, yes, those things happened to you. Yes, that stuff was wrong. Hey, Whitney, how you doing? Yes, those things were wrong, but what are you going to do with that? How are you going to use that to benefit you? Are you going to let that lack of forgiveness hold you back from living the fullest quality of life that you can live? Like, you have to start to take your own life seriously enough to say that I'm going to get right with God. You know, a lot of people are praying and reading their Bibles more than ever, because if you had church hurt and you say, well, I don't go to church because those people did this and those people treated me like that, guess what? Everybody's church is closed. So it's not even about the church. The church is in the individual. And when we come together, we worship in houses or buildings that we call churches. But the church is in the people, right? And we cannot be a light in darkness. We cannot be salt in the earth if we're walking around carrying resentment and hurt and fear, because what happens is we spill that out on other people. And God is not pleased with that. So what I'm saying to you tonight is, you may be praying God and believing Him for amazing things, and He can and He will do it. But if you are holding on to unresolved pain, and let me be more nighttime. Yes, ma'am. Hi, Sister Madeline. How you doing? Let me make it clear to you what I'm trying to say. If somebody can walk in the room and your whole mood changes, then you have some forgiveness work to do. If you can't show up as your authentic self, if you can't walk out the house without your face beat, if you got to be dressed to the nines all the time, nothing is wrong with that now. But I'm saying, if you can't be seen, I know some people will have a panic attack if they can't put on makeup. And I'm like, Okay, so when did you tell yourself that your natural look wasn't good enough? Like, when did that happen? Or where in your life did that happen? Maybe you don't even remember. If you're someone who is constantly talking about other people or always finding some type of judgment, criticism of other people, you need to forgive. There's some hard work that you have to do. If you're someone who is very critical of other people, right? If you find yourself envious, if you see other people getting things and you come up with the reasons why, well, they only got that because of this, and those people only like them because of that. There's some forgiveness work that needs to be done, and we cannot get past that. I truly believe that a lot of what's going on in this pandemic, yes, it's a spiritual demonic attack that is in the earth. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's what it is. Whether it was man-made, it came from a bat, it doesn't matter. It came to take us out. But Jesus said, but I have come that you may have life to the full. Right? He talked about how the enemy came to steal, kill, and destroy, but he came so that we may have life to the full. But we can't have a full life if we're living limited by not forgiving ourselves. Like y'all see my big teeth, right? I love my teeth. I embrace my teeth. But when I was younger, people used to call me rabbit teeth and buck teeth and big teeth. And I had to forgive that. Like, I had to forgive myself for feeling bad about how I naturally looked. I'm talking about as 8, 9, 10 years old. I had to forgive myself. They need some work done in their life. Absolutely. And we all have to do that work in different ways. I feel like many of us who, like, I truly believe wherever there's a struggle in your life, then there's an area that needs some forgiveness work to be done. Right? So you might be struggling to get along with a family member. You might be struggling to make ends meet. You might be struggling to manage your desires. Maybe keep your hands to yourself. You might be struggling to eat right or to be healthy. Wherever that is, those areas are surrounded by some lack of forgiveness. And one of the things that I do as a heart coach, that heart work that we do, we start to dissect and unpack some of the thoughts that we have. Because a lot of our fears and our worries are rooted in areas where we're not forgiving others or areas where we haven't forgiven ourselves. So we have to be very intentional about forgiveness. And that's why I put the definition in the comments, because I just truly believe that many times we will just blow it off. Like, we'll just say, oh, that's their problem, that's not mine. I'm a good person. I do good by people. That doesn't matter. Many times we serve others because we're hoping and praying that somebody can see what we need, that somebody can experience us, where we don't have to cry out, where they'll hear our secret cries. And usually that is rooted in some type of pain, some type of forgiveness that needs to be done. Whether it is forgiving others, whether it is forgiving yourself, but it has to be done. So I just encourage you to not just try to sleep away the days and drink away the days and be busy for the sake of busyness, right? Like, I just read a post that said, get off your phones and go, get some fresh air. Even if you can't go walk around, go on the porch, put some windows up in your house and sit down and journal. I have a journal right here that I have been writing, and I actually have multiple journals. I try to keep them in different places in the house so that whenever I'm ready to start to write, I can. And I've been finding that I've been struggling with journaling lately, right? And I know a lot of that has to do with me just being hesitant to go deeper in areas that I got to go deeper in, right? I'm not asking y'all to do things that I'm not actively doing. I feel like I must be the first partaker of this message, this meal that I'm sharing with you. But one of the things that I need you to understand is you can't get around it. When you don't forgive, it's so high you can't get over it. It's so low you can't get under it. It's so wide you can't get around it. It's going to impact every area of your life, right? You have health issues, right? Your relationships won't work right. If you have children, trust me, anything you have not forgiven you will see manifest in some way, shape, or form through your children. Whether it's going to be through the way that they're living or the things that they have to experience in their lives. But you're going to have to heal, right? If you're someone who has hurt and pain surrounding a parent, a mother or a father, it doesn't have to be, a story we hear a lot, like somebody's mom or dad wasn't there. Some people grew up with both of their parents, but they still have brokenness and they still have pain surrounding parenthood. So guess what? That's going to impact all of your relationships, your marriages, your relationship with your significant other. It's going to impact your relationship with your children, your siblings, your friends, because how we view our parents determine how we view God and how we view life. So if you have an altered, a distorted, dysfunctional view of your mom or your dad, maybe things happen in your past that honestly, at this point in life, you just wonder if it's even worth dealing with it. Yes, it is. If it's something that you keep thinking about, if it's something that keeps coming up, then it's something that you have to deal with. And maybe you just need to have a little talk with Jesus and just let him know, hey, I think about this thing that happened to me when I was 5 or 6 or 7 years old. I grew up my whole life confused, thinking something was wrong with me or thinking that I just couldn't get it right. And when we think these things about ourselves, we live our lives in a way that represents that. Right? We find ourselves being people pleasers or even becoming narcissistic. Right? We find ourselves in self-sabotaging behavior. Why? Because we have not forgiven ourselves. So I had to forgive myself. And one of the things, I've had to forgive myself for a lot of things, but one of the big things that I had to forgive myself was caring too much about what other people thought about me. And then I had to really dissect that and figure out where that was coming from. This desire to people please, this desire to make everybody else happy. It was really rooted in my desire to be fulfilled. And a lot of times I didn't even think that could happen. So I would invest a lot in other people and then get worn out and then withdraw and just pull back and secretly resent them and be angry because it's like, you don't see me, you don't hear me. But sometimes our silence causes us to miss out on the things in life that we need. Because yes, sometimes silence is necessary. Silence does speak loud. But there are many times that we are silent, that we need to open our mouths and confess, Lord, forgive me. Forgive me for what I've done. Forgive me for thinking this way about myself. Forgive me for hating that person. Forgive me for holding grudges and seeking vengeance, because vengeance is yours and not mine. See, me, I used to hold on to grudges. When you did me wrong, I was never going to get you first, but my motto was, I'm going to get you back better. And when I started reading my Bible and I read Romans chapter 12 and it said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I got a little irritated. I was like, well, God, if vengeance is yours, why does it seem like you don't get these people back? Or why does it seem like you take too long? And so I have had to go through this process of understanding that, like Isaiah 55 says, God's thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. But he says, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because because his weight is gentle for our souls. His burden is easy and his yoke is light. His yoke is easy and his burden is light. But our burdens are heavy and burdensome, right? Because we're not supposed to be carrying those things. And I know that a lot of people, like, this is not a popular topic that a lot of people like to talk about, because many of us like to act like we are invincible. Like we have, like the Tin Man, like a heart of stone, and nothing bothers us. Well, if nothing bothers you, then you shouldn't have any trouble staying in the house forever, as long as it takes, right? Because you're so unbothered by yourself. And many of us have chosen to be by ourselves because we have been holding grudges and not knowing how to deal with our lives and dysfunction in our lives. And now that you have to be isolated, it's a problem, right? It was one thing when you chose to be isolated. It's another thing now that you have to be isolated, and it forces you to deal with yourself on a level that many of us will never do. It blows my mind when I talk to like individuals who read my book, especially those who are like 65 and older. And by the way, we're going to be reading Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, my second book on, with my third book on with our first session of the Healing Hearts Book Club. So if you guys want to join a book club that can and will change your life, the link is in the comments for you to register. And we're going to be getting started the Monday after Mother's Day. So if you're looking for a good gift to give your Mother's Day, a good social distancing gift, you can get a registration for your mother to join the book club so that we can all go through the 6 weeks together. But one of the things that blew my mind when I was just getting a lot of feedback from the ladies that have been reading the book were the women who were like 65 and up who were reading this book and couldn't go to sleep at night, like reading the book and were like, wow, I thought I was the only person who felt this way. I thought I was the only person who experienced these things. I thought I was the only person who thought like that. And for me to share my thoughts, it helped them be able to go deeper within themselves and deal with things that they had previously avoided, right? Many of us will say, well, I don't have, when somebody's trying to have a real, authentic conversation with you, or maybe you have strife going on with a family member, and you know at some point in time a conversation needs to be had. Forgiveness is necessary for you to move forward and have healthy communication. Like, we all need each other to survive right now, but we always need each other to survive. But it's really hard to deal with people who have hurt us, especially if we haven't forgiven them. So I'm just going to say forgiveness is not codependency. Forgiveness is not abuse, right? Forgiveness is not allowing people to constantly hurt you and let you down and abuse you. No. Forgiveness says that I am not going to hold on to the anger and the resentment that I felt when this happened to me, or when you did this to me, or when I did this to myself. I choose to release it. I trust that God will do what he needs to do, so I'm going to focus on what I need to do. That's what forgiveness is all about. So if you have somebody that if you're sitting there having a good time and that person walks in the room and you're ready to go or your mood changes, you have some forgiveness work to do. If you don't like yourself when you look in the mirror, if you don't see beautiful or you don't see handsome, if you don't see that with no additions to it, just look, I woke up like this, like how I'm looking right now. Forgiveness is the only way I can go live and not worry, like I'm ready for bed. You know, like I was thinking, you know, I'm not doing all of that. I love myself. I can get made up and I can do that. But you know what? I'm having real talk. It's hard talk. Everybody's in the house. Like, nobody has time for the fakeness. And when we don't forgive ourselves and we don't forgive others, we live very fake, artificial lives. We do it for the gram, and we do it for the book, and we do it for Twitter, and we do it for Snap, but we don't do it for God. We don't do it for ourselves. We say we're doing it for our families, but really we're doing it to try to feed some insecurity that was never dealt with. Right? So I'm just encouraging you right now to take some time and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not telling yourself the truth. Forgive yourself for having so-called friends who never meant you any good. Forgive yourself for being in that abusive relationship and staying a year or 2 or 3 or 10 or 15 too long. Forgive yourself for thinking that the way you look, your hair, your skin, your texture wasn't good enough. Forgive yourself. Forgive those who violated you. Forgive those who lied on your name. Why? Because it's not for them, it's for you. Because many of us are wondering, why am I stuck? Why can't I seem to get ahead? Why does it seem like I'm always taking 2 step forwards and 3 step back? A lot of that has to do with the lack of forgiveness. So like Jesus said in Mark chapter 11, verses 20 through 26, that's what we read earlier. He said, anything you ask and believe, the Father will give it to you. But when you pray, forgive, so that the Father who is also in heaven may forgive you for your trespasses. So all I'm saying is, if you're praying for God to cover you, I believe it's done. I also believe that if you have some unresolved issues that you need to deal with, or let me say this before I get off, a lot of us need to forgive God. A lot of us are secretly angry with God. We serve him, we worship him, but deep down inside, we're trying to figure out, why is my life so messed up? Why did this have to happen to me like this? Why did I have to go through these things? And a lot of times we come up with a response on our own that is not necessarily a response that God is really backing, and it just forces us deeper into resentment, deeper into pretending. I think with everything going on right now in this season, I think one of the biggest things that God has been dealing with me with is just telling the truth. Telling the truth and shaming the devil. Dealing with how I really feel. How I can go from faith to fear to faith to fear to faith to fear. You know, how I can you know, just think less of myself when I don't need to, because I've already come far enough. And when I find myself thinking those things, I'm reminded, hey, it might be something that needs to heal. It might be something that the enemy came to steal, kill, and destroy, that I need to allow Christ to breathe life back into me. And if you don't know Jesus for your Savior, all you have to do is open your mouth and ask him. Ask him into your heart. Ask him to show you who he is. Ask him to guide you. This Bible changed my life. This Jesus, my Jesus. That's why I love that song, Waymaker. My brother always used to tell me that he noticed that I love music, and I've always been big on ad-libs, right? I just love when people just go off the script and just start doing their own little thing. I think that's one of the beautiful things about singing. And in the song Waymaker by Leland, at the end of it, he's like, you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And then he's like, my Jesus. Like, yes, my Jesus. Like, mine. Let me make this about me, because he died on the cross for me. He died so that I could live. He died so that this virus does not take me out. So because I have a purpose, right? I was created with a plan in mind, right? I was formed in my mother's womb, hidden in darkness, so that God could bring me out to be a great light. And the same is true for you. That same truth is the truth for you. But do you believe it? And a lot of people say, yes, I believe it. Yes, I believe it. But your life doesn't represent that. Your life doesn't represent that you believe it. And that's the disconnect that God is wanting to deal with. He wants what you profess or proclaim, the life that you're presenting out there, to be what you truly believe and think about yourself. That's what he's looking for. That's what he wants. So that's why forgiveness is so important. So I encourage you to read Mark chapter 11. It's a good read, especially focusing on verses 20 through 26. That's what I was talking about tonight. Do you guys have any questions or comments for me? I'd love to hear those. If you have any topics that you'd like for me to talk about, you can leave it in the comments or shoot me an inbox. I also encourage you, if you're looking for connection, if you're looking to grow, but don't want to have such a huge commitment to everything, don't want to have to make such a big financial investment, but you know it's time for you to start investing in yourself, I do encourage you to register for the Healing Hearts Book Club, because this is going to be it's going to be a great opportunity for you to heal and to not be alone, for you to be with others who are on that journey with you, so that we can all get to a place where we are experiencing life to the fullest potential. I just truly believe that we're not supposed to sit on the sidelines and watch others live a life that we're only dreaming of. But I also believe that if we don't forgive, if we don't forgive and move forward, then we're going to be stuck on the sidelines forever. And I know I was created to play in the game. And that's what I plan on doing, and I want to do that with you. So I thank y'all for being on. I love y'all. I'm praying for you and your families. Do me a favor. Please share this video with anyone that you think could benefit from it. Anyone that you think needs to hear an encouraging word. And especially anybody you know that might be holding grudges, that might be being very petty in this season of their lives because they're angry and they're hurting and they don't know what to do, especially those who can't stay still, those people who are always going from one place to another, in the church, at home, active in the school, the person always cooking for the potluck. You know who you are. It's time for you to get still, and it's time for you to heal. So I encourage you to start the forgiveness process. And you can also, um, like I said, just leave me a message and just let me know how I can support and encourage you throughout this journey. If this really resonated with you, and maybe you're just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to deal with this. I just encourage you. Forgiveness is a big deal, and it takes a lot of work. And the more we forgive, the better our lives will become. And it does not mean that you're blaming people. It does not mean that you're angry with them. But many of us have people that we love so much we can't heal because we won't tell ourselves or them the truth because we're trying not to hurt their feelings. So what I will say to you is, you hurting your own feelings every time you're dishonest. Every time you say you're okay when you're not okay. Every time you show up for other people but you don't show up for yourself on that level. So I want you to think about that. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for sharing. And just thank you for just being on this journey with me. And let's continue to love and encourage one another. So I will talk to y'all later. This is Adelaide Brown, your heart coach, signing out.